Welcome back. So today we are going to start on something really different. So I mentioned this in one of the comments on my channel. Which let's see, I'm going to load up a demo for you. Sys demo lcars. One of the demos built into the mini micro. It's a little user interface, basically built to look like something you'd see on Star Trek. And I've been thinking about this. I got this weird idea in my head that it might be fun to try to build an ERP system based off of this UI. Not an ERP, it's an enterprise resource planning system. It's basically a collection of software that a lot of businesses use to manage all of their different business processes. And it would be kind of fun to build one inside of the mini micro targeting AWS cloud infrastructure. And it'll be quite a bit of work, but I think we can do it. Because basically, it comes right down to it. All of the AWS infrastructure is generated from YAML templates. And here, I'm going to open up our project that we're starting in today, AWS ERP. It's going to be a GitHub repository for this. I will share with you all. Let me see if I remember how to initialize new projects here. Now I'm going to demonstrate what we're talking about. Oh, I think I have to swap over to my Linux terminal for this. Yes, thank you. CDK init app language TypeScript. So I've done this 100 times in TypeScript before. I'm going to create a TF directory for TypeScript. Basically, you do this, npm will set up a template for you. If you're going to building this in TypeScript, targeting AWS, this is how you get started. And I'm going to see if I can take some bits of this and convert that into MiniScript, where we've been working for the last couple weeks. It's going to take just a minute to run. While that works, yeah, back to those progress meters. Big part of software developers' life is watching progress meters. Hop over to this other screen now and just to make sure that I am indeed logged in at the terminal. Basically, what we're going to do, like normally you'd use the Cloud Development Kit has constructs built in, allow you to easily spin up bits of infrastructure. But all those constructs do is like convert TypeScript code into a YAML file, which is like it reads kind of like Python. And we can generate YAML from any language. So let's demonstrate. We're going to, every single AWS tutorial I've ever watched starts with, so how to create an S3 bucket. It's everybody's favorite place to start, probably because it's one of the easiest things in the world to generate. So import the S3 library there. S3 bucket. I'm going to create a variable or sample bucket. give it an, well, this name doesn't have, it only has to be unique within your stack. And leave it the same as the variable. Keep going back and forth. Doesn't matter too much because we're not going to fully deploy this file. So bucket props at the name or JDOMs sample bucket. Do we care about anything else? Let's see. I think that by default, everything in here is going to be locked down, which is probably fine. Let's see if I can remember the property. Look at the properties. Let's create a little bit bucket. Configure S3 bucket to serve up static content. That'll be a good starting point for what we're trying to do. Under static website hosting, choose edit. No, that's all GUI related stuff. I want to do this whole thing from the CDK. It's a common use case, but gone through so many use cases, it's can't always store them all in my head. That's a fine set of things. Public read access is true, so you'll be able to access it from the outside world. Removal policy. So basically, if we remove the sample bucket from the stack, it's going to destroy everything, which is fine. And then bucket deployment. That's another kind of construct that controls deploying individual assets. Like if you want to push up a file to your S3 bucket as part of your stack. Let's see. We need that. Just try and get the very minimal stuff you need to have a self-contained website in the stack. Oh, I think that was the wrong library. There's a lot of deprecation warnings there. Oh, just use that. S3 deployment. Good. Destination bucket. We're going to call it web bucket because that's what it is. It's a website in a bucket. I'm pointing it to an actual asset. Let's see if we can give it some data directly. Let's see, bucket uses a zip file stored in S3 bucket as a source. Data deploys an object with specified string contents into the bucket. That's exactly what I want. Object key, index, data. Well, let's make our little web page. If you know anything about AWS, you've probably gone through this, some kind of sample like this over and over and over again. Okay. And finally, we want to output wherever that URL is living. So let's output it. Bucket website URL. That should be everything we need to deploy this thing. Let's fix this. Just going to do a sample deployment. So we need to start generating stuff in the cdk.out. I'm going to come back to that soon. And this always takes a while to run. In fact, you might want to drag the cursor on your little YouTube meter over to wherever you start seeing action again. See that it's synthesizing. Synthesizing means it's taking all that TypeScript code, runs it. It basically generates something like an abstract syntax tree, which then gets converted into. I think it's generating YAML. I don't think it's generating JSON. If it's not generating YAML, we're going to make it generate YAML. Deploying. There's not a fast way to do this that I've found yet. Maybe sitting in an AWS server room would be faster. Access denied. Oh, I know what the problem is. I actually have my sandbox set up. I think it's because I have the sandbox set up to not allow public websites. Just a second. Let me refer to my notes here. Basically, what you need, the best practice here is to not use S3 as a website. So a lot of times it's just locked down entirely. It's saves everybody some pain. The way around that is to create a CloudFront distribution to serve it through. I think it's the default behavior we need to set. Origin. That's not right. And default, no, root object is going to be our index HTML file. We need to create the origin access key. Don't care what it is, we just care that it exists and that it's being shared between those components. So the web bucket has access to that origin access identity, patching it to the distribution. So it's tied at both ends. Let's do it like this. All right. So yeah, instead of going to the S3 bucket directly for your website, you host it through CloudFront distribution. Either way, you end up with a URL. Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think it's the domain name that we want. We'll know in just a second. This is how AWS development goes. Write a bunch of stuff, wait a bit, see if it worked. I could have synthesized it first, and that would have captured some errors. It would not have captured this one because that was coming from the server. And now we just wait a minute. Oh, well, that's going to fail because public read access is still on. Don't know if crashing that was a good idea, but there you go. So synthesis time was 37 seconds. That was just converting it from TypeScript into the output file. You can see some outputs here. There's our little index file. Neat. And we'll explore that more once we are certain we have this setup we want, the way we want. Wait, deploying. If all that works, it should spit out a URL that we can then click on and view our index HTML file. I don't know, maybe creating a bucket like this was overkill. Didn't need to create a whole website with everything. I just needed to like see, can we create a bucket and read its contents. The S3 bucket is sort of like an FTP server. That's the easiest way I've found to describe it. Place for sending all your things. Basically, way back in the dark days, all of the infrastructure as code was done by creating YAML files. Some point along the way, like the YAML file describes the infrastructure that gets built over in AWS land. Then someone got the idea of, instead of like writing YAML, let's write it in TypeScript or JavaScript or whatever language, and that language will then generate the YAML for us. It's a little bit easier to read. We're getting there. Grade in progress, so it's still building. Completed 8 of 11 steps. Don't know what the stacks are, but it's finished them. Our goal for today is to get this to deploy, make sure it works. Then we're going to immediately tear it down and then just synthesize the YAML file and then see if we can write a MiniScript program that will generate that same YAML file. Then we'll try using the AWS CLI mainline interface to deploy that YAML file to CloudFormation and make sure it still works. Should be straightforward enough. Nothing in that list I just described is incredibly difficult. It's just gotta step through the process. I'm going to be working on this project. Maybe I'm thinking about doing this just once a week, and maybe alternating between figuring out how to build the infrastructure, the server side infrastructure, and how to arrange the front end user interface. Nine of 11, almost there. Okay, so have a URL. You can see it here. By the time you see this video, it's going to be gone. Access denied. Oh, there's always something. Let's see what I forgot. Let's see. Just want to see if our sample bucket made it up there. It is up there. So we can't access it the way we wanted. But that might just be okay. Let's see if we can, see if I can remember how to just load a file from S3. So we can see if it actually made it up there. Can we do that? Let's see, let's see. If I'm wrong, we'll do it a different way. files, HTML. Okay, another case we're going to learn as we go. So many different ways of doing this. There. That's probably what we should have done to begin with. S3, AWS S3, copy. Just want to know if we can get it out. And that just dumped an index file there, and there it is. Okay, so that's something. Now that we know that bit works, and let's see the output of the sync. It's kind of a lot. I feel like something went really wrong there. Looks like my SSO token expired. Just a moment. Multi-factor authentication in progress. Okay. Try that again. Oh, you sucker. Do it right. I just did that. Do it again. And again and again. Until it actually eats that thing. Synth. Come on, do it. Synth already. It's not blowing up. That's like something good. So basically, I don't want any of this deployments. We still want to send our source file up because that's what we're testing with. The rest of this is just going to go because I don't care. I'm trying to build a website. It is not even remotely on our list. So we have a pile of YAML. That's what gets synthesized. Let's see. Remember how to pipe it to a file. Have a minute to think. Basically, this is what CloudFormation actually reads when it's trying to build stuff. And that is what we need to generate. We have our YAML right there. That is what we care about. And it's a little bit cryptic. But that's okay, we can work with it. So now that we have the YAML file, destroy. Try not to leave anything on AWS that you don't need because it's going to be quietly charging, like charging you by the second forever for a lot of things. Very first time I deployed something in AWS, I was playing with databases. Decided I'd try creating a serverless database. Deployed the database. Went to bed. Came back the next morning. Oh, there's a $5 charge in my account. So that was a learning experience. Let me make sure we don't lose the YAML file. YAML is what we really care about here. And we're going to create a little deployment script. First thing we're going to try doing is just to deploy that YAML file directly. I've never done before, so this will be exciting. I think it's something like it's not CDK anymore. Development kit, that's all that TypeScript stuff. About ERP, because we're ultimately trying to build some sort of ERP project. Well, we call our stack. Every time you deploy to CloudFormation, you're deploying a stack. Okay, now we just gotta wait for that whole thing to delete. I'm regretting creating the CloudFront distribution because it was unnecessary and takes a while to delete. Just give it a minute. Once again, you have the luxury of fast forwarding that I do not, so you may enjoy that luxury now. What I think I'm going to do, basically, we spent the last half hour, well, 35 minutes, talking about how to create a really simple CDK project for building an S3 bucket, private S3 bucket, uploading something to it, and then demonstrating that it is indeed in there because we can download it. So I think I'm going to stop this video here And we're going, now that we have the YAML file output, we're going to pick up next time in how to start from the YAML file and deploy that. And once we've covered how to deploy the YAML file and that we know how to do that, we're going to then work on deconstructing the contents of that YAML file into something that we can generate from MiniScript. And it looks like I have some issues there, but I'll deal with it. I'll probably have to go through and manually delete the thing. So we will pick this up next time, and wish me luck.